Welcome to Hello Tangent, the podcast where we talk about movie, video games, comics, TV, and desperately try to stay on topic. I am your host, Clark, aka the Reverend Michael Snakebite, and Kat is
I'm
back.
back.
Kat is back.
Yeah, it's back.
And she's here. Well, we would do some catching up, like what have you been doing? But we'll do that before I actually go into what I did last week. We'll do
Okay.
that. Go ahead. How have you been?
I have been
Let the people know.
great. I have been working this whole time. Lovely, wonderful holiday season. Don't be an asshole to retail workers, please.
Yes, please.
That's all.
But that's not going to stop them.
No, it won't. It's fine. We'll just bitch slap them.
So, Kat and I have already caught up, so we're not gonna.
Yeah, I'm not gonna reiterate that
We're
whole
not gonna
thing.
go through all of that. But yeah, last week I released the first episode in the new series, My Favorite Star Wars, and today we're going to do episode 2. Well, not literally episode 2. See, I had to do this disclaimer last week that I will not be doing them chronologically. We're just going to do them as the guests come in and
Sure.
do them. So it just happened to be that last week
Was one and
yeah,
one.
Austin finally made an appearance on the podcast.
It's
and
only been a year and some months.
yeah, well, we did record another one that we're saving for a back burner, like rainy day. But this was his first official one that's been released, and we did episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and it was a good time. It was actually a lot more insightful than I expected.
Enjoyable film.
Yeah, he had a lot to say on it. He had some really good ideas on it, actually.
Yeah.
And so basically what I've done with this whole setup is I've always had in my mind kind of a tiered list of what I think my favorite Star Wars movies are, like best to worst, obviously.
Sure.
And now that we've had like Disney Plus is out and all this like Star Wars media has really kind of come together, and not only is the full like Skywalker saga complete, but now we have all these spin-off and side movies, and then obviously the Clone Wars and Rebels and The Mandalorian and all this stuff coming out. And then they've got new stuff coming out, obviously new shows coming out.
Yeah, they've got like 10 new shows that they're planning on having come out in the next 2 years.
And now Ubisoft has now announced doing an open world Star Wars game and an Indiana Jones game. So that's kind of fun.
Yep, the High Republic is going to be a thing.
The first issue of that comic just came out.
Oh, did it?
Me and Austin actually talked about that a little bit.
Snag it for myself.
But I thought this was a good time to kind of review all the movies and kind of relist them in my mind of what I think actually is my favorite Star Wars movies and which ones maybe I've overrated or underrated.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I've had people come on and try to talk me into
enjoying things you don't like,
or maybe talking me out of liking something as much. Last week, I think Austin may have talked me into maybe not liking episode 1 as much as I thought I liked it.
Yeah.
Going into it, I thought it was probably a bottom third movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I still liked it probably better than, I would say, 3 or 4 other movies. I'd say it would rank above
Did you mean the entire last series?
No, I ranked them. I think I liked, I came into the episode telling him that I think I liked Force Awakens better, but I liked it better than Last Jedi, and I liked it better than Attack of Clones and Rise of Skywalker.
Fair enough.
Having heard his argument on episode 1 and what it could have been, what it should have been, or whether it should have been combined with episode 2 into one long movie.
My stomach just made another weird noise. I'm not even hungry. It's just wants to participate, that's all.
Yeah, fair enough. Another voice.
Yep.
It's your gut instinct telling you.
Oh, that was a bad one.
Oh, man.
We need a...
So I don't have a sad like sound on the pad here.
Sad trumpet.
I always love the Price is Right fail noise. That's my favorite like sound effect ever. I
We
think.
need to get the Mass Effect "You've just died, your mission failed" noise, because that is the most devastating sound.
I don't think I remember that.
Boy,
I'm gonna listen to it after this.
Fortunate for you.
But anyway, after talking to Austin, I think I came to the conclusion that episode 1's not really necessary, and it's probably
fun. I like Darth Maul and I enjoy Qui-Gon, but they could be their own.
Yeah, at this point they could have had their own thing going on, or having been reutilized the way Austin said, like they could have been in episode 2, and you could kind of do away without episode 1 altogether, and skip straight to like teen Anakin.
Yeah, you didn't have to have little kid Anakin.
I'll once you listen to the episode, I'll get your opinion on it and we'll
Sure.
post it on Twitter or something.
We'll reconnoiter.
But today we are talking about, and it's a breath of fresh air because we're not talking about a bad movie
Skywalker.
that yeah, a bad movie that I want to like, but we're talking about a good movie that I do like, and we are talking about Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
My favorite.
Uh, as it stands right now, I would say that Rogue One is probably my third, maybe fourth favorite.
Fair enough.
It's depending on my mood. If you asked me on any given day, I'd say it's probably my third. I'd still say I like Empire and Jedi better.
That's fair.
And that's probably where it stands, is right there at third.
Right.
And it's fitting because I think I like maybe A New Hope right after it, so it's kind of like
Right in.
a nice
Yeah.
watch in. So go ahead. This is what I did. Same thing with Austin. The formula is I basically let you kind of tell me what your experience with seeing it for the first time and what your mood was around it the whole time, and then I'll tell you mine, and then we'll get into discussing the plot and characters and how we think it actually could have been better or could
Mhm.
have been tweaked or some things that could have been left out or whether it was necessary at all for this whole
Sure.
I mean, because that is an argument, I think.
That's fair,
Uh,
especially for that one.
and then we'll get to a conclusion where I think I'll see if I want to re-rank it in my movie list or not.
Neato burrito.
So go ahead and tell me your experience with Rogue One.
So I'll be honest, I don't remember when I first saw it. I do believe it was at that luxury theater,
Uh,
but I don't
the
remember
multicolored one or the
seeing
new one?
the one across from Cabela's.
Ah,
I don't think I don't remember seeing it in theaters. I remember being really excited because it was Star Wars, and I'm one of those people that I'm like, even if it's bad, it's still something I enjoy. Like Star Wars is the first fandom I've ever been part of, and that was as a wee child before fandoms were like a thing that I knew about. And the idea of something that didn't have anything to do with Force users was really exciting because I don't dislike them, but there's so much saturation over dark and light side and the general like, oh, Jedi are end all be all, but like the idea of magical wizard people in space, fun, neat, but I feel like that's such a small percentile for all of the Star Wars stuff. So my idea of seeing something that didn't have much to do with the Force was exciting because I don't think that I saw any of the like promos or the teaser trailers or anything. I saw a few of them obviously, but I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Let's go watch it." And then seeing it and rewatching it, it always reminds me of like a World War II movie or something like that. I think that's one of the most exciting things about it
well,
is
which is
it's
kind of fitting because that's for the war part of Star Wars. That's what George Lucas was originally going for. Was
right.
he modeled the space battles after World War II dogfights and naval battles,
Mhm.
and that's kind of the feel that he wanted to get.
Yeah, it's
And then
neat. And my
I actually
thing is like
mentioned
right in my way. So if I look like I'm looking at you weird or going cross-eyed, it's because of this.
I could have put it on the underside, but I thought it would
Meh,
sink.
whatever.
um,
It's fine.
one thing I said when I was talking to Austin was two things that you've kind of hit on already, and I'll just see what your opinion is on this. That Star Wars, first off, the original trilogy obviously is modeled after the space battles or modeled after World War II naval battles.
Right.
Then we start to see land battles when the prequels came out,
Mhm.
more of ground war and things like that. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you see the Battle of Endor and you see the Battle of Hoth
Sure.
in the originals, but they hadn't really quite, I don't know, grasped it didn't feel too
It
like the
didn't
Battle of Hoth
seem
was.
realistic.
Yeah, the Battle of Hoth was really cool to me, but at
It
the same
was.
time, yeah, it didn't feel like war yet. It didn't feel like what war with that kind of technology would be.
Right.
And the Battle of Endor is just silly to me. I mean, yeah, I get it that guerrilla warfare and primitive people
With
in
little
in the
cannibal
past
teddy bears.
have been able to overthrow like more technologically advanced like civilization
Yeah.
and stuff, but I just don't.
I don't know. I
It's
feel
silly.
like
It's a goofy
yeah.
battle.
It is a goofy battle. It's fun. Not the most realistic, but
Yeah.
it's fun.
And then the second part is that I said to Austin that the original trilogy to me was much more spiritual in feel, and
Yeah.
then the prequels are much more political and like secular
Yeah.
in feel. Like even though the Jedi and Sith are a big part of the prequel
They're
trilogy,
kind of like cops though.
yeah, it's
If
a
you think
lot.
about it, it's like officers versus gangsters almost for Sith and Jedi,
Yeah,
in my opinion, for the second.
there's no conviction really behind their
No.
beliefs in in the prequel
It
trilogy.
it matters to them, but everyone else is just like, "Eh."
Yeah.
Whatever, Jedi, fuck them. Sith, what is that?
So getting to Rogue One, do find it I find it interesting that it's a modern movie. So it has more of the feel, the more raw, modern adult feel that we want out of our movies now.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, it uses a lot of elements of that spiritual nature because you have the character that oh gosh, I'm gonna blank on his name. We're gonna announce him in a second anyway. That Donnie Yen plays.
Oh yeah, cheer it.
Yeah, Chirrut. So
Mhm.
he's obviously like a kind of a devout Force believer,
He's
even
like a
though he's
monk.
yeah, even though he's not a Jedi himself,
Yeah.
he like embodies that spirit and belief and everything. So it's kind of fun that they have that as a big portion of it without having Jedi
Yeah.
involved.
I enjoy that it kind of reminds me of the newest trilogy. It's sort of a everybody knows about the Force or everybody's got an idea about the Force, but it's not necessarily a thing that everybody has,
Hmm.
which I think is where the prequels kind of fail because it seems like if you don't have the Force on the light side, you have the Force on the dark side. And everybody in those series has it in some capacity or they're a politician. Like they don't really go to the normal person.
Hmm.
But the new series, the new ones that just what is it, the sequels, everybody if you look at it, especially with the way that it's framed contrary to all of the different issues with the directors and stuff, everybody kind of has the Force.
Yeah.
Like they um what's the word I'm looking for? They kind of make it seem like, oh, Finn could be a Jedi if he
Yeah.
trained.
It's like a
Poe
guiding
could be a
entity
Jedi. Yeah.
throughout the whole.
And it's also a very like godly thing
Yeah.
as opposed to it just being like this mystical force thing in the prequels or the sequel or the original trilogy.
Hmm.
But I feel like in Rogue One it's definitely a thing, but it's kind of the same way that people are with a religious figure during really shitty situations because that's what they're in, you know.
Yeah.
You could be a devout Christian in World War II, but God's not going to necessarily stop a tank from blowing up your fucking, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
And so I feel like it's kind of neat that it's a there are people that believe in it, there are people that are devout, and there are people that are aware of it that are just like, well, you
Yeah.
know, if it helps it, if it helps us, it helps us. If it doesn't, like, who's
Yeah.
to say it's not helping? You know what I mean? It's like it's not a big deal, and I think that's my favorite part of it is it's not. But the force will save us. Like that.
Yeah.
That sort of thing annoys me in movies because it's not realistic.
It's referenced a lot, but it was supposed to be a bigger part of that movie. And we'll get into Easter eggs and touch ons like that. By
Yeah.
even bringing this conversation up, I've already thought of a litany of Easter eggs that are in this movie
Yeah.
and things that were left out of this movie, such as force sensitivity in certain characters.
Like Jin.
Jen was going to be force sensitive, and
Mhm.
it was going to be referred that her mother was a Jedi, and then they just scrapped all that because they said no.
Well, her
Ground.
mom had a connection to the rebels initially,
Hmm.
and they kind of were like, well, she Lyra might be,
Yeah.
you know, she might have it.
So there were definitely
She's got the crystal. Maybe she had a lightsaber at one point.
see, and we'll get into this too, but I think the kyber crystal goes beyond that because that was her father's work.
Hmm.
And the fact that the Death Star this laser runs on kyber crystals,
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of the movie, and you don't have to connect it to the Jedi.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
it
Most people will though,
mhm.
because I mean they make it very obvious that that's what it's based off of by going to I almost said Jakku, Jeddah,
Mhm.
because they're mining it and they have that whole little what are they doing? What are they taking or what are they putting there? And they're like, no, they're taking stuff. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And if you don't know the more recent, because I don't think it was really a thing that people cared too much about until the EA games came out and you had the opportunity to play a light side or a dark side, because I think that's when kyber crystals were like not introduced. I think it's always been part of the thing,
Mhm.
but I feel like that's when it became an important thing because it got to you got to choose what color your
Yeah.
lightsaber was in KOTOR, didn't you?
Yes. But it was based on your class.
Yeah,
So it was between Guardian, Sentinel, or what's the third
knight.
one? No.
No.
Oh gosh, the green lightsabers are consulars.
Oh,
Yeah, Jedi consulars, Jedi Guardians are the blue, and Jedi Sentinels have the yellow.
I know that they the colors change based off of what your power most powerful in, at
Mhm.
least by the Jedi standards of the like prequel sequels. Um, but like with Obi-Wan, his lightsaber was that color because he was better fighting than he was force using, versus Anakin's being green, I
Mhm.
think was green because he was strong with the force. Don't know if you knew that.
Well, I mean, generally, yeah,
But
it's the
yeah.
same. That's kind of how they explain it in KOTOR also, is that consulars are, like, more wise and out, like, looking into the, like, mysticism of the Force,
Mhm.
and that the Jedi Guardians with the blue lightsabers were more focused on, like, guardians. They were,
Right.
like, more of the strong arm of the Jedi.
Yep.
Um, but there's a lot of nuance in that because obviously some of the most respected and most feared lightsaber, like, duelists are consulars and then vice versa.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, sometimes you just like the color.
yeah, and then the
Sometimes you
Sentinels.
want a purple lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly. So, and sometimes it becomes canon because you want a purple lightsaber.
I do enjoy, I know it's not Rogue One, but I do enjoy how Mace Windu went, or Samuel Jackson went, I want a purple lightsaber. And they're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
How do we do that? And then they figured out that his was not run off of crystals. It was an electron something or other.
I've never actually thought of, like, look into that.
Yeah, there was a poster thing that I can remember it
But they
very
have purple
distinctly.
kyber crystals
They do.
because you got me one.
I know. I have a white one somewhere. But no, the his in particular is like an electron something or other. I can't remember. If you know the name of it, please comment or message us or whatever. But there was a promotional poster for episode 2 where it was Obi-Wan's lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber, Yoda's lightsaber, I think Dooku's and Mace Windu's. There might have been another one, maybe Kit Fisto, I don't know. But they had all of the lightsabers and they're like Kyber crystal, Kyber crystal, Kyber crystal, or whatever. And then Mace Windu's was electron something or other. I'm like, whoa, that's cool. That's neat. How did he make that? Like, I'd love to know. Maybe I'll go read those books one of these days.
Yeah, I will check it out now.
Are you gonna look it up?
No, no, not right
Oh,
this second, but I will check it out after this.
yeah.
All right, so back to where we were, which we got off
Sorry,
on tangents.
tangent.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Right?
Um, so yeah, this movie is, like I said, is much more grounded. It's much more based in actual Star Wars, like the
Yeah.
operations. And that was one of my complaints also I had with episode 1 was that there's not a whole lot of war in the Star Wars. There's one space battle and it's really lackluster and it's not that entertaining at all. And this movie kind of gives me everything I want as far as a war movie,
Right.
but it's just set in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely has the, I don't know, it has the gritty feel of a war. And I enjoy that even though you're following the good guys, you get to see them having to make really difficult decisions, like going and they've got to kidnap the scientist that helped build the Death Star for information, but they're not going to kidnap him, they're going to kill him. Like, I enjoy the fact that Cassian is making friends with Jin and she's starting to trust and she's there to do, initially to get free, and finds out that her dad might actually be alive and suddenly she's invested and he's just like, "Well, it sucks for you because I got to kill the man you haven't seen since you were a child."
Hmm.
Like, I enjoy that gray moral, or that I have to do something bad for the greater good. I enjoy that sort of fun.
I compared this one time when we were talking to another movie. Do you remember what it was? I'm blanking out completely.
What's that?
After I watched Rogue One, I said, "Oh, I remember what it was." I said it's uh it's Halo Fall of Reach.
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's it's like the same plot to me,
Yeah. I mean,
except without the prison gaining your freedom part of it.
right.
But yeah, it's very similar as far as, yeah, Halo Reach and Rogue One have very similar beats as far
Yeah.
as the story.
Right. I enjoy it does. I enjoy to I just thought about it because of Breach too, but like I enjoy that even though it is technologically advanced, even if it's a different time, you still have a lot of the same sort of tactics that were used or are used in military whatever war stuff happening on Earth.
Hmm.
And, back with Hoth and stuff, that seemed
Yeah.
exciting and stuff, but I think it's neat that, you have actual, I think, actual military people were in on the planning of the actual battles and things like that, which is kind of cool.
So I'm trying to remember the first time I watched this movie. I want to say it was in the comfort of my own home
Yeah.
on Xbox or something. I bought it after it came out for rent, or available for rent or to buy.
Mm.
Um, I didn't have this movie spoiled, but I did know it was like someone told me they're like it's like literally just the days right before A New Hope starts.
Right.
I was like, okay, that's interesting. Uh, I didn't know anything about the reveal at the end and all that, and we'll get to the surprise ending and all.
Sure.
Um,
There will be spoilers, by the way.
yeah,
So
there
if you
will be
haven't
spoilers
seen
for this
this
movie,
film, you can
but
keep listening as long as you don't mind spoilers.
I think that I've grown to appreciate this movie the more I've seen it
Yeah.
than I did just the first time through.
Sure.
I really like the ending of this movie. This ending of this movie is very good. It's very emotional.
It
It's
makes me
heavy.
cry almost every time I fucking watch
Yeah,
it, which
it's
is not infrequent.
it's really freaking good. I will give it that. And
Yeah.
I think I appreciate it. Like I said, every time I see this movie, I like it more.
Mhm.
But but the first time I remember being kind of like, huh, that was a thing.
Yeah.
And I still had that feeling that I think a lot of people had where it was like, did I really need this?
Yeah.
Did I really need to see the minutes leading up to the start of A New Hope?
Right.
Uh, and also, I was confused by a few things, and that was because in A New Hope, when Mon Mothma actually makes the announcement before the attack on the Death Star, saying like many Bothans died
Mhm.
for this. Was it ever said what the Bothans were in Rogue One? Because I always thought that was its own race.
I don't think so. It might have been, unless that's what the fleet was called.
I think
I don't actually remember that,
I
but
talked
it's been a
about
while
this.
since I've seen A New Hope.
I want to say it was Garrett. I actually asked this on a fan theory podcast that we did, and I don't remember if he had an answer for it either or not. But yeah, because I remember playing the original Battlefront games and on the PS2, and they would say like that one of the classes you could play as was a Bothan spy, and it was the only alien class in the Rebel army.
Right.
And I always assumed for some reason that Bothan was like the species or the race of that.
It is a species. I just looked it up. It's like a werewolf looking thing.
So, oh, I get it now. I remember they do explain it. Once you said that, it reminded me. That's what their team or whatever
Yeah, like
the Bothans they were.
the
Yeah,
designation of that
it would
particular.
just be like us if we were a raid team. We were nicknamed the Wolves or something.
Yeah,
Or
I think that that's what that was.
gotcha.
That's
That's what it
that's
is.
logically what I think. I don't
Cool.
have confirmation because that's not something that I remembered from A
Yeah.
New Hope. But
All right. Well, let's get into the facts about this movie real quick. We've danced around it long enough. Star Wars, or should I just say Rogue One, a Star Wars story, came out in 2016. It was directed by Gareth Edwards. Writing credits are Chris Weitz, Tony Gilroy. Obviously, it's based on the characters by George Lucas. It stars Felicity Jones, but still my heart. Diego Luna, Alan
be
Tudyk.
still my heart.
You can Alan Tudyk, who has become quite the voice actor. He really
He's
has.
played many parts too in the newer Star Wars films because he
Hmm.
was in The Force Awakens. He was the big junk trader guy,
Ah,
and
cool.
I think he's done other voices too.
He's done
But
a ton of voice acting recently, which he's
mhm.
he's great. Donnie Yen, who I mentioned earlier, Wen Zhang, and Ben Mendelsohn, who is a absolutely fantastic villain.
He makes a remarkable
Yeah, I
bad
hate
guy.
I hate him so
I
much in
would
this
love to
movie.
slap him,
There's
but that's
also
perfect.
there's a ton of other people obviously that star in this movie, and some big names too. Forrest Whitaker, obviously is in it, and Mads Mikkelsen.
Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, Riz Ahmed is in it. I always forget about him as the pilot. He's actually good in that movie too because
I
he's
fucking
that
love Bodhi.
he's that Weasley character that's kind of a coward the whole time, and
Like you
then
don't trust him the
yeah,
entire time,
yeah,
but
you
he
never fully think he's
actually
part of the team kind of thing because he's
does
not
good.
really fully part of the team. He's kind of there by force, not choice.
Yeah. Well, no, he's there by
But
choice.
he's yeah, he
But
he doesn't want to get his hands dirty. He's like,
mm,
I'm here to drop you
yeah,
guys
he's
off.
like, I'm just here to
I'm
deliver the
just the
information.
driver.
Galen encouraged me. He said I could change my way, but that's not going to happen now that, you know.
Also, I want to mention that Genevieve O'Reilly, who plays Mon Mothma in this movie, and then I can't remember if she makes a subsequent appearance in Force Awakens. I think she does when
She might. I think she does. I think it's very brief.
it's before they all get killed in Force
Yeah.
Awakens.
Yeah.
Um, I'm pretty sure that's when it is. Or is she in Last Jedi on the bridge of the rebel ship when Leia gets blown out? Because that's when like all of the leaders die except her.
It's
It's one
possible.
of those two.
I
She's
don't quite remember. I've seen. She's not someone I pay attention to. All I know is that I saw her and I was like, "Oh yes, that's wait a second, not the same person as."
yeah.
Yeah.
But I like mentioning that she is in this because she is the voice in Rebels for Mon Mothma, as well as the Battlefront video games and basically every other Star Wars property. She's been the voice actress
Mhm.
for, and so she actually got to play this character on screen, and
And
that's.
she is perfect for
I
her
was gonna say
too.
that's usually remarkable when someone actually looks the part because a lot of voice actors don't necessarily look like the characters they're portraying,
Yeah.
and I find it extra special when someone's able to do both.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm caught in the wires.
Oh,
If you're
I didn't
wondering what
know
I'm
if it
doing,
was you or her. I'm just
it's
like,
me.
what?
I was trying not to step on her, and I got caught in the wires.
Hate when that happens.
Also, I wanted to bring up where's his name? Alistair. I can't even say his last name, Petrie or whatever, who plays Bail Organa, and he was also Bail
Oh yeah,
Organa in the
I love
prequels.
him. He's a really good actor.
So it's always good to see someone reprise their role from
Mhm.
stuff like that. So, and 11 years later too from the last movies, and
Yeah,
it's looking pretty good.
he's looking quite well.
All right. So, do you want to do the plot of this movie, or you want me to break down what I remember the plot of this movie being?
Please break down. When was the
Because I
last
had,
time you watched it?
it was on TV probably a few months ago.
Okay,
So last time I watched it, and it was probably one of those days where I was playing a video game and just had it on the second TV.
sure.
Uh, so
What do you recall?
it's always fun when we play Can Clark Remember a Plot?
You
So
do a little bit better than I do, though. To be fair.
I did a really good one on the Christmas movies episode about a movie I had not seen in like a decade, and
It
Garrett was pretty
scarred you
impressed.
that bad, right?
No, it wasn't a bad movie. It was
Oh,
just a movie that I hadn't thought of in
yeah.
forever. And Garrett brought it up, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, do I remember this movie?" And I just rattled off the plot like without missing a beat. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, you nailed it."
Congratulations. You don't need to watch it again.
So Rogue One follows. It starts off with Jyn Erso as a young girl,
Mhm.
and um, basically her mother is. Was her mother executed later, or she executed? She's not executed at the
She
beginning.
dies at the very beginning.
Okay, it is. All right. So
Yeah.
her mother's executed. She's given a kyber crystal, by the way, that has like an inscription on it,
Hmm.
and it's like faded at the end, like you can't see what all it says. It
I
says
think
like
it says the strongest
it says.
stars are made of kyber or something.
I want to say what I've heard translated to is always trust in blank,
Oh.
and
Oh,
because a lot of
maybe.
because a fan theory was that it was supposed to be always trust in the force,
Yeah.
and the force part is faded out where the crystal's worn down.
Right.
Um, so I mean that's a cool fan theory thing right there. But um, so Jin's mother is executed, and Galen is basically forcibly recruited by the Empire for his work in kyber crystals to work on the Death Star project. And I forget what Ben Mendelsohn's name character's name is. I
Krennic
have to look. Krennic, yeah, that's it. And so he's like,
and his death troopers.
yeah, and the Death Troopers, who another fan theory is that they're zombies, that they're not,
It's
they're like
possible.
reanimated. I don't know how
With
that
the
one works.
noises that they make.
Well,
It's possible they're clones too.
well,
Like degenerated.
yeah. The reason they make weird noises too is they are talking to each other and
It's
yeah,
scrambled.
they have scrambled. That's really cool to me. That's
I agree. I think it's kind of really neat. This
yeah, yeah.
it's like I don't fucking understand that. Neither
That's
does anyone else except for the people
that's
they're
very
talking
effective
to.
for a team.
Yeah.
Navy
I
SEALs need that.
appreciate that yeah, I appreciate that they have taken that concept and employed it because it would make a lot of sense, especially in the later films, the films that come after that,
Hmm.
because of the type of war that they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's left basically as a kid on a planet. It's a running theme in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Orphaned on a planet. Um, and I don't remember how she ends up in prison, but doesn't it fast forward like she's now 21 years old and she's in prison?
So she gets left in essentially a designated meeting space for Saw Gerrera.
That's right.
Her dad,
She's
well,
kind of
Lyra
raised.
was a rebel. One of not I don't know if she was necessarily one of the extremists, but Lyra, the mom, was in contact with Saw before he became
Mm.
the
Like yeah, resistance head guy.
yeah.
Oh.
And they were living on Hawaii. I'm pretty sure that's where they filmed that. But they were living on a little farm doing their own thing. and mom gets killed. Dad tells Jin to run, go hide at the meeting place, and she gets picked up by Saw, who then takes her in and basically teaches her how to be an insurrectionist. And she becomes like his left hand or right hand, whatever you want to call it. Because there's the one alien dude. I
Yeah.
can't remember what the species is, but he looks fucking awesome.
The short, stout.
The one that's got the like predator reflective looking eyes. I'll have to look it
Is
up.
it
I'll show you.
the twin ones? There's
I don't think so. Maybe. He's got the like
yeah,
almost Plo Koon look
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
him. Yeah.
He's got a twin behind, like that's
That,
always
you
with
know,
him.
he might actually. I don't remember the
'Cause-
twin. I just remember that guy being like intimidating but awesome.
Yeah, because that's another like fun. It's not really a fan theory as much as it just isn't mentioned in the story, but it's
Yeah.
in the lore
Yeah.
of Star Wars. It's mentioned that him and his twin are telepathic, so they can.
Oh yeah. I remember that actually.
Yeah.
I do remember that. But yeah, he picks her up, and the assumption, I actually haven't read too much into Jin because she annoyed me at first. I could explain that later, but she annoyed me at first because of her like, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm like, what? Anyway.
Yeah, you'd think she was raised as like a
Yeah, and maybe
insurrectionist rebel. She would have a little more conviction to the cause.
right, and maybe that's why she doesn't. You know,
I don't know. I'm an emo kid, so I kind of like my characters to be like whatever.
apathetic.
Yeah, I'm a very my inner nihilist just loves that.
I mean, that's fair. She's cute too, so like, and a badass. But
I love
that's
Felicity Jones.
basically
Did not like her in Inferno though. Was so
I don't
disappointed.
think
In
I
that.
watched Inferno.
So you can pass on it.
Neat, I will because I won't remember this
The
past
book
this
is great.
conversation.
The book is amazing.
Yeah,
Don't watch the movie.
fair enough. But no, that's basically how she ends up in prison. Is she's left behind by Saw, which is a conversation they have later. But he was like, people were starting to suspect that you were the daughter of an Imperial science officer, and that's not safe for you or them
or anybody.
because they were going to use you as bait to get the not resistance, the Imperial people to come do shit, and they weren't going to do anything with Jin. Like, she was not important to them, but you assume that you have a target or somebody that's important, you can do some bartering, whatever. But yeah, that's how she ends up in prison. Is she
Right.
gets left behind again?
Fun.
Yeah,
So that's why she's so apathetic too. Part of it.
part of it.
So I don't even remember how she gets out of prison, but she gets out of prison.
She's on a transport,
That's right.
and the rebels
Yeah.
attack the transport. And they're like, hey, you want to come join us? We'll get you out of here. And she's like, oh, yeah, take me away. And then she tries to run, and that's when she meets K2.
Yeah. And Alan Tudyk's voice.
Mhm.
So we should say who that is. So K2SO is his full
The
designation, right?
single best droid, and that's coming from someone who loves BB-8 and R2.
Yeah. He is a great character. So he's a reprogrammed Imperial droid.
Which you might find out about when they do the Cassian Andor television show.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because that's a pretty big part of the comics.
Yeah, how they end up like their whole together
Mm-hmm.
partnership thing is crazy.
It's pretty neat.
Guy walking around with a huge 8-foot tall
I
robot
know,
behind
a
him.
tiny little string bean with a giant ass robot.
I wonder how tall he actually is. That robot's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. It's got to be 8 or 9 feet tall. It towers
Probably.
over everybody.
Yeah.
Like by a full foot or
Oh
like
yeah.
2 feet or so. Anyway, so she gets taken back to see Saw Gerrera, right?
No.
Damn, I'm off on this one.
Close, but not yet. She gets taken back to the rebel base. I think it's on Yemen. But she gets taken back to the rebel base where she is confronted by I can't remember the guy's name. Mothra.
Mm-hmm.
Mothra.
Mothra. Godzilla villain.
You know, it
Mon
happens.
Mothra.
Sometimes you feel like that. And one of the admirals of the resistance rebels, and she meets Cassian, and basically they're asking her about her father, and she's like, I don't know, I haven't seen him in years since
That's
I was a
right.
child.
I remember the distrust starts very early.
Yeah. So she meets with them, and she meets Cassian, who is like, where's Saw Gerrera, whatever. And she's like, I don't fucking know. I haven't seen him in forever, which is where you learn that she was left behind,
Mhm.
sort of. And they're like, okay, but if we find him, if we know where to get him, can you get us in to see him? because there's this contention in the rebel cells because there's the crazy terrorist organization that is doing all of these things that are setting back the other rebels in attempting to make, whatever,
Mhm.
make an impact. And so they want to go talk to him because of potential information he has, I think. And I don't actually remember the reason specifically that they need to talk to him, other than maybe to be like, hey, can you stop making it more difficult for
Yeah,
us to win?
that's fair.
Yeah,
So then they go to Jeddah.
there you go.
So they go there to find Saw Gerrera, and I remember there's the argument like over giving her a gun or not
Yeah.
on the when they're actually taking off on the transport,
Hmm.
and so that's when you really see that he does not trust her at all.
Yeah.
Um, they go to Jeddah and they run into uh
Cheer it and bays.
yes, thank you.
Hmm.
I couldn't remember if it was actually Bays is how he pronounced his name or not, but um to run into them and they're a pair of like I said a force believing monk and a heavy artillery carrying
Also a force believing monk, but is the same sort of like the force has done nothing for me, so
yeah.
he's sort of lost his way.
Yeah, he's that whole like I'm like I don't want to say like agnostic, but he's like that whole
Basically, though.
like I believe in the force, but we're not on speaking terms.
Yeah, pretty much.
That kind of thing.
Because it is alluded to slightly further down the road that Baze at one point was one of the most devout of the temple keepers.
Hmm. And he carries this awesome Gatling gun looking
Yeah, the
thing
fucking neat ass thing.
on his back that's either rapid fire or it shoots one big power shot.
It's
Uh,
a rotary.
yeah, but he can shoot like single power shot
Oh
out of it
yeah,
because he
yeah,
does
yeah,
that a couple times.
yeah.
But anyway, so he's kind of like the enforcer, and obviously, why can't I ever think of his name? The other one, Donnie Yen's character,
Cheer it.
Cheer It.
Mm-hmm.
See, I want to mix his name up and the villain, Ben Mendelsohn's character.
That's fair.
Their names are too close for
Yeah,
me.
no, that's fair. Cheer
So
it Imwe, and I don't remember what Baze's last name is.
Albus, I'm
Malvis.
looking at it now, so I
Yeah.
cheated on that one.
No,
Not
that's
gonna lie.
fair.
So yeah, Krennic, Cheer It, Krennic, Cheer It. I won't screw it up now.
You're gonna be like when Cheer It does the bad thing, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh really? When did he do this?
So anyway, Cheer It's blind,
Yes.
and so he basically uses the Force to see.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we can gather from that. Which is not the first time we've seen that in Star Wars. We've seen that from several characters in Star Wars
Yep.
media before.
Well, there's an entire couple of races that are completely blind, like the Miraluka that you can play or run into. You can play them in the Old Republic
mm-hmm.
MMO, and there's one that you run into in KOTOR in the first game.
Yeah, and then in KOTOR 2, you have Darth Treya, who is blind, who is also just Kreia. That's spoiler alerts for a 22-year-old game too.
Whoops.
By the way.
Boy, that game's almost as old as I am.
Yeah, that game's old. I graduated high school, I think, the year that came
Oof.
out. Wow, I just really showed my age. Anyway, uh, and then also the Jedi Master in Force Awakens,
Mm-hmm.
Force Awakens, that you blind as Starkiller.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name at all though. But
I
so
never actually played Force Awakens.
first one's good.
I've heard.
It's fun, kind of repetitive, but pretty good. I don't even know if it's canon now at this point because it has people like Shakti in it, and
I don't know. It depends on the lunar tide.
yeah,
Because Star Wars is either everything in Star Wars is canon, everything in Star Wars is
everything
not
is
canon.
alternate history, which is what I hear now. Is
Yeah.
the new thing with the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like it expanded universe, whatever, but it ends up being like stories in the current universe, like rumors and stuff. I don't know.
What a mess.
Right?
Oh,
They need to hire me to be like, all right, we're keeping this. We're not keeping this. We're gonna.
those movies will have their day though, and
Yeah.
you've chosen Force Awakens as your other Star Wars movie that you want to do on here.
Did I say Force Awakens or did I say not the Last Jedi? What's the last one?
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
You can have either one.
I mean, I will take both of them.
Okay.
I will take that whole ass
You might
sequels.
end up doing it.
That's fine. I actually, contrary to most people hating them, I actually really enjoy those movies.
I had the argument with Garrett when I was trying to come up with which one I like out of that trilogy, and I still maintain that there's certain things and there's set pieces in The Last Jedi that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
but when I watch that movie as a whole, I'm disgusted.
The Last Jedi is not my favorite.
It's a mess,
It
but there's
is
certain
literally
things.
the last movie on any of the Star Wars movies. It's not my favorite. I don't dislike the series, the sequel, the yeah, sequels, but I don't particularly care for that film. But I
Yeah,
mean, we'll get into that.
discussion for another day.
Yeah.
So they go to Jeddah. She meets Saw Gerrera. There's a little tension between them. It's not all getting along.
Hmm.
And then I don't want to skip too much ahead, but the Death Star shows up.
Yep.
So that's the next big thing.
Yep.
Um,
And you get to meet what's his name? Moff Tarkin.
oh yes, we see Grand Moff Tarkin for the. Is he a Grand Moff yet, or is he just? Yeah, he's a
I
Grand
think
Moff
he is
already.
Grand Moff, yeah.
He's already a Grand Moff. So he's Grand Moff Tarkin, who is uh, great in this movie, even though he's CG'd to look like the original
Hmm.
actor. And the guy who does his voice actually does a really good
He
job.
does.
But I like his character, even though, like I said, it was very uncanny valley for a lot of people.
Yeah. It was just slightly too many frames per second compared to everyone else's. I feel
Yeah,
like what the issue was.
it's real hard to make that seamless, but it's done
It's
well.
impressive. It's
And
done well.
I, like I said, the voice acting and the attitude really save it.
I love that snappy old man.
Yes, and it's great how he treats Krennic
Yeah.
because Krennic's an asshole and he's a slimy little kind of.
He's definitely a little slug.
So we should get into this villain, by the way. He is a project director for the building of the Death Star,
Yep.
primarily, and he's requisitioned Galen Erso to basically make the weapon work.
He brought him back because Galen was one of the main scientists that started
Yeah.
working on it.
So he's in charge of building the Death Star, but obviously he's not actually a military leader.
Mm-mm.
This is another Easter egg that I love about this movie is every time, or it's not every time, but when you see him, Krennic in the beginning, when they're executing Lyra, uh, he has a certain amount of stripes on his uniform, and
Mm-hmm.
it's because nerds are out there. They looked into this and they've come to the conclusion that it's the equivalent of like a lieutenant commander.
Mm-hmm.
And when you fast forward now, 21 years later, he has new stripes, his new stripes on his uniform. He's basically become an admiral.
Yeah.
So he holds the military rank of admiral, but he's not an admiral in the Imperial Navy.
My favorite thing about those is they look like the gum.
Yeah, look, you break it off.
Yes. Anyway.
So yeah, that's what his ribbons is. So he's basically the equivalent of an admiral, but from the lore outside of the movie, it's assumed that he is really bargained his way to getting these titles. They're honorary.
I think he's blustered his way. He's made all these promises, which is kind of why he's such a skeevy little like, it's
Mhm.
mine. I'm the one that did it. Wait,
Yeah.
I get to talk to that kind of a thing. Like he definitely
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
he sleazed his way
and
to where he's
it
at.
really adds to his like despicableness.
Yeah.
Because he's just one of those kids. Everyone knows someone in a corporate environment like this who has kissed their ass up the ladder.
Yep.
And that's what he is basically, is that he has no military authority, but he wears the cape too on his uniform, and he's got the white uniform, and
Yep.
he's kind of like built himself into this like it's all show.
He's that dress for the job you want, not
Yeah.
the job you have kind of person.
So he has all the authority in the uniform, but he really like when he runs into someone like Grand Moff Tarkin who immediately puts him in his place, it's just very
It's just like,
satisfying.
oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah, very satisfying to see him get knocked down a peg.
Yes.
So back to the story. They use the Death Star, one reactor only,
Hmm.
on Jeddah. So it doesn't completely obliterate the planet outright, but it kind of causes a cascading, like nuclear shockwave, what we would think of. Sorry, I got to stretch, Zelda.
You're fine. She's fine. She's like, oh.
I probably kicked her in the face.
She's fine.
Got hammy cramps.
Who wants to help me stretch out my hammies?
So they use the Death Star. Jen is trying to get Saul to leave because now they've reconnected, and she sees how he treated her like a father that she didn't have at the time, and all that stuff.
She's also seen the projection of her father, so she knows
Mhm.
he's alive.
So right when she's ready to forgive and forget, and she is getting all sentimental about it, Saul is like, I can't run, and and he gives a speech about how he can't run, but he literally can't run because
Yeah,
he's
he's like
missing a leg.
missing a leg. He's on
Yeah, on
oxygen.
oxygen, that's explained in Star Wars Rebels, the animated show,
Mhm.
of why he's on oxygen, and that comes from pesticides used on Geonosis, where the Death Star was originally designed.
Mhm.
So that's a fun. I just love how it connects. Like I
Yeah.
said, that's one of the things I'll brag about at the end of this when we wrap up about how much this movie references the rest
It
of Star
is
Wars.
like the cornerstone of
Yeah,
the
it
series.
really connects the prequels and the middle
It
trilogy.
actually has impact on the sequels too.
Hmm. Yeah. Well,
Well, like they're tiny little references.
yeah, it does a good job of just being, yeah, like you said, a cornerstone. It's connected to everything,
Hmm.
and that's hard to do when you had trilogies that are separated by 20 years apiece.
Yeah.
You didn't, you would think it'd be hard to kind of connect some of these things, or it'd be forced to connect them. Like, okay,
Forced.
yeah, you know what I mean. It'd be really like a stretched kind of
Yeah,
thing.
contrived.
Contrived. Thank you for
Hmm.
that
You're
A
welcome.
plus word.
That is a wonderful word.
So they flee Jeddah. She gets off. Planet gets obliterated, and now they are going to hunt down her father, who she thinks they're going to rescue,
Yep.
but uh, they they do not. They're not on the same page.
No, so they are on their way to go find her father,
Hmm.
and she's under the assumption that they're finding him to bring him back
And
to give information about how they destroy the Death Star.
yeah,
Because he in that little transmission is like, there's a way. I built in this teeny tiny little thing that could ruin this entire fucking planet killer. And so she's like, go to the thing and we'll find it and we can destroy it. And that's when she decides that she's going to be patriotic for the
hmm,
rebels. And in the process, Cassian transmits to his commanding officer, and the commanding officer is like, "Yep, kill on
yep,
sight. Don't bring him back
eliminate
here."
him. Yep.
Like the same thing that he had right before they left. He's just like, "We don't need it. We
Hmm.
literally don't need it. We just need as many dead imperial people as possible." And so they go,
Yes. So they go, and I don't remember the name of the planet they're on, but it's really rainy.
"Yep,
And they're at this research facility, and Krennic shows up.
yep,
And so while Cassian has his sniper rifle, uh, Galen's out there with the other scientist meeting Krennic, and he's obviously putting him in the crosshairs, basically going to eliminate Galen. I don't remember if he sees Krennic and thinks twice about it, or I think he's like the whole time he's like, nope,
no,
Galen.
he's got plans." So Krennic knows now that there is a spy
Yeah, there's a mole.
in amongst their ranks, and he goes to, I actually don't remember what the planet is either. He goes to this little outpost to confront Galen because for some reason he's able to figure out that it was one of those scientists. Maybe it's from transmissions or whatever, but they find out that Galen sent a pilot from that particular planet with information to give to the rebels to be able to destroy the Death Star. So he goes and pays them a visit so that he can go figure out which one of them done did it.
Done did it.
Done did it. And Cassian the whole time's like, all right, cool. I'm going to fucking murk this guy, maybe a couple of other ones. It doesn't matter. This is my objective. The um he's been through many wars. He was alive during the Clone Wars as a child and he was on the wrong side. So he's got a lot of like ambition to make up for a lot of the bad that he did against the clones and the Republic. So being a good guy but doing the bad things that are necessary as a good guy, he knows that he's got to kill Galen, even though he knows that it's not necessarily a good thing, especially because he's again becoming friends with and familiar with. Stop it, you
Hmm.
with Jin. So continue.
I was looking up the planet too while you were talking there, and is it Edu?
Oh yeah, Edu.
Edu. Okay. It's weird how they had it on here, but um, so basically, Krennic's there to execute the scientist, or does execute all the scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And Galen gets to see Jin before he dies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Jin is the reason that Cassian doesn't fire,
yeah.
and he also calls back to the ship which they crashed, um, while K2 is trying to repair it, and is like, "Hey, cancel those bombs that we just fucking
hmm
lit up. Let's not murder our friend that I happen to have feelings for." And yeah,
So I don't remember. I don't remember how they leave that planet.
they steal a shuttle.
Okay, they steal a shuttle. Either way, they end up back with the rebel command, right?
Hmm. In
And
a stolen Imperial shuttle.
yeah, and Bodhi's in now. He's here now because that's
Well, he's been with them since
okay.
Jeddah.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, because he runs into Saw slightly before they go to Jeddah because he's got the information from Galen,
hmm
and the twin alien guys don't trust
yeah.
him.
They think he's like
They,
setting him up.
yeah, essentially. So they bring him in, and Saw is super fucking paranoid.
Yeah, I felt bad for Bodhi in that because
Yeah.
that's like, I mean,
I mean,
that's
it's
it's
difficult, but it's
yeah, it's
understandable.
war.
That
It's
is
real.
war. You cannot
Yeah,
trust you look a gift horse in the mouth absolutely. So he comes and he brings that transmission, and Saw, instead of believing him outright, is like, all right, well, I've got a way to confirm that you're not gonna fuck us over. So he goes and he hooks this guy up to a mind flare, basically, who confirms that Bodhi's literally trying to do the right thing. And then he views the
sorry.
Galen thing. Yeah, but he gets thrown into the prison that Chirrut, Baze, and Cassian get thrown
Yeah,
into, and they rescue him on their way out.
that's right. It's coming back to me.
Yeah,
Uh, so
it's
anyway,
playing out in my brain right now.
so as they come back to the rebellion command, now the plan is forming to assemble the team to go to I forget the name of this planet to Scarif.
Hmm.
Yes,
You
got
did
one.
it.
Got one. I'm not a complete
That one.
useless asshole in this. So they go to Scarif.
Well, so she tries to rally the entire rebellion to send all of their
Yeah, and they're
forces
like, no,
to Scarif, and they're like, nah,
nah,
that's
bruh.
not really a good idea. Can you
Yeah,
come up with
because
something
it's
else?
like the most heavily defended Imperial planet, or I guess heavily shielded, because it literally has a shield around the entire
Yeah.
planet,
Hmm.
and there's
And
only
there
one
are,
gate, like
yep,
in and out.
there's a blockade of star destroyers
hmm
too. So they're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's
And they tell her no.
so on this planet. Basically, is it's not the controls like to the Death Star, but it's basically
It's
it's a radio tower. I know is the big
blueprint sort
thing, but
of
it's the
thing.
that's it. It's where they can get the
It's
actual
it's
blueprints to it.
essentially where they've got all of the like blueprints to the imperial things.
Yeah, that's right. And then they've got the big radio tower because that's the two MacGuffins in the end of this movie.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they go to Scarif as a strike team, a small assembled strike team.
Under the guise of just being
Yeah,
a wayward imperial shuttle
Imperial
that
shuttle,
missed its thing in Edu.
and this is where we get the call sign Rogue One. When they ask them what their call sign is, they say Rogue One.
Which
Which
fun little thing if you've never noticed in the prequels, when they're calling out their call signs. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a military term for a group that has number designations,
mhm.
and they leave the designation of the fallen comrade open, and they have a moment of silence before they go on to say all of the other, like, rogue 2, blue, gold, whatever,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. In, I think it's A New Hope. um Rogue One is not stated, but all of the other rogues are, which is kind of cool.
which is funny because in this movie, uh, which we're getting to the plot of it. Well, I'll go ahead and say the plot, and then when I get to it, I'll say this Easter egg because it's on the same topic of what we're talking about right now.
Yep.
So while the strike team is down there, um, they land. They have to infiltrate and get the stuff. And when shit starts going south, they have to get to the radio tower basically to like
Transmit it.
transmit it. And the Mon Calamari, including Admiral Akbar,
Mm-hmm.
almost blanked out for a second. Admiral Akbar shows up with a squadron, with a fleet, basically,
Yeah.
So they do get the backup that she riled them up for. So now we've got a big space battle going on. And we get X-Wings that actually, and A-Wings, I guess, that actually squadrons actually come in to infiltrate Scarif's airspace, the shield, to give them air support
Yeah,
inside.
because one of the Admiral Akbar's Hammerhead corvettes
Mm-hmm.
rams into one of the Star Destroyers that falls into the shield generating
Yeah,
thing
the gate
that
thing.
opens it up so that they can
Get in. Yeah.
get in while the ground forces are making hell.
Mm-hmm. And this is the two Easter eggs I like. So the three squadrons of rebels, like squadrons that are attacking, are Red Squadron, Gold Squadron, and Blue Squadron. Blue Squadron is the squadron that goes through the gate onto Scarif to give close air support. Um, Blue Squadron gets wiped out in this movie.
Yep.
And they are not in A New Hope.
Mhm.
Only Red Squadron and Gold Squadron are in A New Hope on the attack on the Death Star.
Yep.
Why that's an Easter egg is because while Blue Squadron is part of Star Wars lore in the Rebellion, as far as the way the Rebel Navy is set up, the original Star Wars was actually filmed on a blue screen.
Mm-hmm.
And
so they couldn't have
they
blue.
couldn't have Blue Squadron. It originally was
Makes
supposed to be
sense.
Blue Squadron and Gold Squadron,
Yeah.
but the blue wouldn't show up because they used blue screens for the
For
background.
those people that don't know movie magic, if you have a screen, like a green screen, wearing something that is the same color as the screen will make it so that you're invisible
Yes.
for the parts of you that are wearing that color. So, thus the blue.
Thus why they couldn't have blue stripes on the X-Wings.
Otherwise, they'd have space and shit coming out
it
of
would
their
have just
arm
been
holes.
metal bars flying through space
Yeah.
with a bubble canopy on top.
Yep.
So that's one fun Easter egg. That's how they explain that away, that Blue Squadron was there, but the reason they're not in A New Hope. So they get wiped out in this.
Makes sense.
Another one is that in Red Squadron, the only member of Red Squadron that gets killed during the battle is Red 5.
Mm-hmm.
In Star Wars A New Hope, on the attack on Death Star, Red 5 is Luke Skywalker's call sign.
Yeah.
So Luke Skywalker takes over Red 5's position in the squadron. So that's a fun little Easter egg. Other than that, that's the two ones I had that were kind of cool from this.
I think it's neat.
I just want to mention that one of the things I told Austin when we recorded last episode about how I had a lot of disappointment in the actual star battles, space battles in episode 1, that I thought it was completely lackluster and it sucked. This space battle is amazing and quite
Yeah.
possibly one of the best
Yeah.
filmed space battles. I won't say maybe the best. I would argue that it's tied for the best. I would give the opening scene of Revenge of the Sith a very close
Yeah.
run for it.
Yeah, I can see
That's
that.
a very good naval battle, the way it's depicted.
Yeah.
So these space battles are pretty awesome, and Rogue One does it just great, absolutely great. This is probably one of the most exciting action scenes in a movie recently.
Yeah, especially for a sci-fi.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because unfortunately, most sci-fi tend to have very low budgets, so the budget can't go toward all of the animation for a fleet battle.
Yes. So while the space battle's going on, ground battle's happening, and our heroes are now starting to get dropped one by one.
Inundated.
Yeah, so they're definitely getting overrun. They are outmatched, outgunned, and Chirrut and Baze are killed in a last stand, blaze of glory kind of way.
They have to go flip the switch so that they can
Mm-hmm.
manually move the tower to project.
Yeah, and the whole time, Jen and Cassian are making their way with K2 up the tower.
Mm-hmm.
K2 sacrifices himself at this point to get them into the actual signal room.
To get them into the room where they have the projects.
Okay, that's the blueprint room. Yeah, that's right, because they have to get him out of the
the
pick it out of
towers.
the thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's where his last stand is, where he basically shuts the doors on them and says, "I got this," kind of thing.
And then she gives him his gun because he didn't get a gun, and he goes, "You continue to surprise me, Jin," or so, and she's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Awkward.
Weird time.
Neat.
Not the best time.
All right.
And we see Bodhi have to kind of rise to the occasion and get over his kind of cowardice. And I forget what it is that he has to I know he has to run out and cross gunfire to
He has to connect something so that they can open up the comms to.
That's right. Yeah. So
to
everyone in
the
this team
people.
does a big does a big part. It's not
Yeah,
just a hold off the enemy kind of thing. Like
pretty
they all have
much.
to do like this is definitely a ballet of everything having to go perfectly for this to work.
Yeah.
So, um, so Jen and Cassian are getting the blueprints, and then they are going to the tower to radio him out of here. And Krennic shows up.
Mhm.
Basically, I think doesn't like Grand Moff Tarkin tell him like doesn't he say something along the lines of
He
been
more or less is like,
this is your fuck up kind of
what the
thing.
fuck is happening? And he goes to Scarif, finds out that they're being raided while it's happening. Like they managed to get down on Scarif. They touched down as late shuttle from Edu that
Hmm.
missed its drop point because Edu got attacked and they were rerouted to Scarif. And Krennic is kind of like,
That's
that's
suspicious.
sus. So he goes and they're Jin, K2, and Cassian are already inside going to the Tower of Records, which you also that's one of the connections to the new series is they're going through the different projects and they mentioned the hyperspace tracking.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yes, that will come back in Last Jedi.
Yeah. Yep. And he he gets really pissed off. He starts making comments because the resistance or the rebel people that were on the shuttle go and they start making trouble on the beach to be a distraction for the people going and doing the infiltrating on the inside to get to the information. So they've got the distraction going on and all the imperial forces are going to whatever shuttle depot area and they keep getting told to go to the wrong one.
Mhm.
So, there's trouble all over the place and Krennic's like, hold the fucking phone. What is going on here? I think I have an idea of what's going on. Like you
So he
said.
goes to save the day himself.
Yeah. If you want something done right.
Yeah, and it's the one time. I mean, he's got to put his money where his mouth is. He's had all this bluster his entire career, and it's how obsessive are you about this project? And this
Right.
is how obsessive he is about it. He's willing to go down there and risk.
Fuck some shit up.
Yeah, basically, he's going to handle it himself. Fun side fact too is that according to the lore, Scarif is such a well protected and supposedly like well defensible place that it was considered a cushy job in the Empire,
I'm sure.
and that's why they say that Rogue One is so successful is because there's such a terrible response to the attack on Scarif because no one would really believe that they were able to be attacked.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a funny side part too.
It
It just
makes sense.
it's really smart how it all comes together.
Yeah. I mean, if you right before the rebels start fucking up stuff on the beach, you kind of get panned in on a couple of stormtroopers that are walking around. They're like, "Hey, did you hear that the old DC-16
It's
or whatever it
the
is?"
T-15s are getting obsolete.
Yeah, they're like, "Yippee!" Like, "Woo, we're getting new guns." Not
That's
that it
an
matters,
and that
but
is another that's another Easter egg
yeah.
because when they say that in A New Hope, in the beginning of A New Hope, after they take over the Tantive Four, or no, it's on the Death Star. Sorry, on the Death Star when um, Obi-Wan is sneaking behind and
Mhm.
like the two stormtroopers are talking. They're
Yeah.
talking about getting new T-16s.
Yeah.
So it's there's just so many Easter
Yeah.
eggs in this.
They're super excited that they're getting new pew pews.
So, uh, all right. So the attack's happening. Their team's falling apart. It's up to Jen and Cassian to get the radio signal up, and they're confronted by Krennic. Uh, Krennic shoots Cassian, correct?
He knocks Cassian from because they're climbing up that tower basically
Yeah.
to get to the thing because it's jammed or
Thought he
something.
wounded him because
Well,
he has that pimped out 3-shot pistol.
yeah, he might have wounded him. I don't actually
I don't.
remember,
Yeah.
but he falls and he probably breaks some shit
Yeah.
because he hits on the way down and then he hits and he's down for the count. And Jin's like, "Well, that sucks. Better keep going."
Yeah. And here's the point where I don't remember how Krennic dies.
Um, so he dies just like the rest of them.
Okay, so he's still alive when when the climax of this happens.
Mhm.
All right. So somehow Jen gets the radio signal out.
She climbs the tower and goes through one of those like opening closing aperture things
Hmm.
and manages to get to the tower that she has to put the cassette into and the tower needs to be manually aligned because it's out of whatever from being hit by a bolt from one of the what am I thinking of? X-wings.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, my brain blanked out. It's messed up, so she has to go and actually manually align it. And Krennic shows back up. Do you remember that part?
I remember the standoff. I can see their faces and everything, but I don't remember what the conversation is and what the whole.
She's got, the cassette or whatever, and she's basically like, "Do you remember me?" And he's like, should I?"
Hmm.
Nope. And she's like, "Yeah, you do. You definitely remember me." And he's like, "Who are you?" And that's when Cassian shows up. And I think he shoots Krennic so that she can get over to put the cassette in. And then she goes to like actually kill him, and he grabs her and he's like, "No, no, 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 no. We're gonna go the other way. Leave it. Let it happen."
Hmm.
And they limp to the beach.
To the beach when we see the Death Star
Yeah.
now
Show
hovering.
up.
Oh yeah, which
And
it can travel through hyperspace, which we figured that out.
fucking terrifying.
Yep. And so now it is. Yeah, it must have a hell of a nav computer to dodge all the shit it could probably hit.
It probably just because I'm sure that it's shielded.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Star Killer
Also,
Base was.
also space is so huge. A lot of people think like asteroid fields are like really densely packed. It's like no, there's like thousands of miles between asteroids and an asteroid field.
Yeah.
Not even thousands. I'm talking like probably millions of miles between.
Yeah.
Like
Light years.
yeah, not that much, but just
Light
a
years.
lot of space.
Yeah, no, there is a bunch of space. And Krennic's still alive when it shows up on the horizon. And he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, it's so beautiful." And it's like,
It's your yeah.
bruh.
Yeah, he created it's his brazen bull.
Yeah.
He created his own death machine,
Yep.
and he will be its victim.
Mm-hmm.
So Tarkin is on the Death Star, proudly commanding his new ship that he's super hyped about.
Like you
And
do.
So he commands them to blow up Scarif, and
I'm actually curious to know if he destroys Scarif or if he just destroys that one little
that
outpost.
station. I'd have to
Because I
look into that.
don't remember if they actually like tell you. I would imagine he'd go full out because if Scarif
think-
is an Imperial occupied thing and it's got all that special information.
Also, isn't Alderaan in A New Hope doesn't he say it's time to demonstrate the full power?
I do think so.
So obviously we knew he said one reactor only on Jeddah,
Yeah.
and
I think all of the little things, well,
they still do that.
yeah, they do. All I remember right now is the woo noise. Fucking great until the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they don't. I don't know that they necessarily show the whole ass planet blowing
Also,
up.
we should probably mention the blueprint. What it is what they're after is there's a thermal. If you obviously we're talking about A New Hope here.
Spoiler alert.
So there's a thermal exhaust port on the Death Star, and since I was mentioning the reactors, the reason that thermal exhaust port is there, and Krennic okayed it when Galen Erso presented it to him, is because the reactors were overheating. They needed a thermal exhaust port to cool off the reactors after they used the laser.
Mhm.
So that's why it's even in the Death Star to begin with. That's why there's this one thermal exhaust port that goes straight to the core that's able to destroy this monster.
Yep.
And hence the plot of A New Hope. And the whole purpose of this movie being made.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why it's there, is because the reactors are overheating. They can't use the full power without this thermal exhaust port of the Death Star. So that's why it's included in the design. I know people for a long time have been like, why would you have this
Why
one?
would you do that? Well, because you actually need
Yeah,
it.
it's actually exhaust for this thing to blow off heat because it would
So it doesn't explode.
so it doesn't microwave everybody on the fucking Death Star.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah. Fun fact.
So good thing we presented that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, not to ruin it, but now we're back to the first ending is what I'll call it.
Yeah.
So first ending, which is now we have Jen and Cassian hugging each other on the beach as the Death Star shockwave is coming towards them, essentially obliterating them and pretty much covering up the bodies and history of everyone that went there that day and did that. So
Yep.
another thing about Rogue One is great is telling the story of people who were probably forgotten after this.
Yeah. And a lot of it is, before they go to Scarif, Cassian makes a point of being like, well, these people are all people that have done really bad things in the name of a freedom that they're working toward. A lot of them are spies, saboteurs, different people that are not necessarily good. So people aren't going to remember them because they weren't.
Well, they don't want to be
the
associated with them.
heroes.
Yeah, winners write history. If the
Yep.
rebellion wins, they're going to want to be the good guys in that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. You don't want to know about the people that got their hands real dirty
Hmm.
in order for you to have a shiny victory.
Exactly. So Death Star comes, shows up, destroys. There goes our two protagonists, and now we shift back to the space battle, and we see a Victory class Star Destroyer now come out of hyperspace, and it seems huge compared to the Mon Calamari cruisers that are there, and that
I don't want
obviously,
calamari.
hey, so
Anyway.
I'll just call them Mon Cals. I think they've actually made the name. They've like retconned the name into Mon Cal
Yeah.
instead of Mon Calamari because that's too on the nose that they're a sea-going people,
Yeah.
squid-like people.
Amphibious.
They're a squid-like people. So I think there's Mon Cal is what they call them now. So I'll say
Yeah.
that from now on. But the Mon Cal cruisers are just dwarfed. Like I think the Victory comes out of hyperspace and actually rams right into one and just
Yeah, kind of just
knocks it out of the way. Like yeah, just. Psh. So the Victory is obviously Darth Vader's flagship, and he's there to basically wreck shit and get the plans back, like he does, because
Like you do.
he is the enforcer of the Emperor. So they on the cruiser that they're on now, Darth Vader goes over to it, and they're downloading the plans, and yeah, I'm doing it now. I'm getting it right, and the lights go out, and we get the best scene in cinematic history,
Mm-hmm.
which is just the red lightsaber lighting up and the glow
On
showing
the fog.
showing Vader standing there and the look of fear in all of the uh, rebels' eyes, and then they open fire on him, and he just walks down the hallway, deflecting bolts, force choking, throwing people into the ceiling, force choking others out of the way,
Shoving doors open.
shoving doors, cutting people, and just slicing people
just
apart,
wrecking
just
shit.
wrecking shit like he would.
He came in like a wrecking ball.
And yeah, just a crazy monolith here, just it's insane.
It's just like, get out of my fucking
And
way.
he gets to the end of the hallway, and one of the last rebel guys, realizing that they can't get the door all the way open, sticks the plans through and says, "Take him, take him, take him!" Right as the lightsaber goes through him and the door,
Mm-hmm.
and so now they're running away with the plans, and they run up to Princess Leia on the Tantive 4, or do they give him? Does it show the Tantive 4 actually? Like breaking away before they hand him to her. They hand him to her on the Tantive 4, don't they?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So we see they get on the Tantive 4, which is a Corvette that's connected to this cruiser, and it's not really an escape ship. It's another full size ship,
Yeah.
but it's a Carillion Corvette versus an actual cruiser.
My favorite thing about sci-fi just in general is that they name most fighter medium sized, smaller sized
Mhm.
fighting large ships, Corvettes. Like that's a
I mean,
thing
that's
that
what-
is normal in all.
Well, that is we that size in our Navy is more of what we would call like it's still smaller than a light cruiser. It's more of like a
It's like a maneuverable
it's bigger than a destroyer.
battleship.
It'd be like our modern day like Aegis class destroyer we have in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah.
But Corvettes is an older term for ships of that size that they
Yeah.
used to use. Like when we used a lot, it comes actually from the French. When we used a lot of French military terms, Napoleon made a whole lot of French military terms
Of course he did.
popular because a lot of the 18th century warfare, like a lot of generals modeled themselves after Napoleon because he was such a dominating force of early 1800s.
Just don't go to fucking Russia.
I said 18th century. I meant 19th century.
Yeah.
So like that's why you see a lot of French terms when you read stuff about like the American Civil Wars because all of those generals were studying textbooks on how to fight war from Napoleonic tactics and stuff. So
makes sense.
so there was a lot of French terminology in war, and it stuck over to this day. But
I mean, I think it's neat. I enjoy that it is a thing that is like across all platforms essentially.
Yeah, I do love using real naval terms in space battles. That's
I
what it is.
appreciate that. Yeah, because it is Navy. It's just not water Navy.
Yeah. So now the Tantive 4 breaks off and runs. Vader looks very disappointed as he stares down at the ship running away. And we see the plans being held or given over to CGI Carrie Fisher. Who was she dead at this point?
Yeah. I don't actually remember.
Or did they
I think so, because I think it came out between The Force Awakens and
I think it did.
The Last Jedi.
I think it did too. Yeah, now that I remember it.
And I think that's kind of why people were like, oh, that's...
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I mean, de-aging is one thing, but
Yeah.
then they totally CG'd her.
Yeah.
And they did like a voice modulator from like her actual voice, didn't they? Like to string
think
together.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is that's creepy when you can actually do that now to
I'm
basically.
not surprised that they can, though, honestly.
Mm. Uh, so yeah, they escape, and that's literally right before the beginning of Star Wars Episode
Yep.
4, A New Hope. It
Credits
literally
A New
ends
Hope.
like,
Right as she's sticking the thing into R2 to
you know,
keep.
I don't think it didn't redline. It'd be
No, as
funny if
long as it, I'm just like,
I saw it just like, but
my fucking stomach. I'm not even hungry. That's the weird thing. It's just making noise.
so yeah, that's Rogue One. It took us a while to get through that plot, but yeah.
It's a good plot, though.
So, uh, retrospective, what do you like about this movie, and what would you change? What do you think would you like different, if anything?
I know this is going to be silly, but I would like more just explanation or more expansion on everything. Because every event, I feel like it is a very well paced movie. That is part of why I like it so much. But I'm a glutton for good cinematic, and I would enjoy more at Jeddah. Like when they go into the little city right before all of the craziness happens with Saw's rebels, Cassian breaks away to go speak to someone who who's he talking to? You know, he mentions, but he doesn't. You don't actually get to see that interaction. I would like to see more of Jin's background. You know, her growing up amongst the
Well,
radicalized rebels. You know what I
how
mean?
much of that is in Star Wars Rebels, though?
I don't know.
I don't
I don't know that
think
she is
she's in it
in
at
it
all.
at all.
I don't. Let's say I was trying to think of any kind of Easter egg, like anything slipped in, but I
Yeah,
don't think she's in it at all.
and I mean that's. I will admit I've not seen very much of Rebels at all, which isn't necessarily because I don't like it. It's just I haven't thought to sit down to watch it. Too busy rewatching Rogue One.
Fair enough.
But no, I think there are definitely things that could change. But as far as the movie goes, I don't think I could have made it any better. Obviously, I'm not a filmographer or anything like that, but I don't think of there's any sort of idea that I could give that would make it a better film, in my opinion. I am content with it just the way that it is.
I think I am too, and I just want to say that I did have that feeling when I first saw it of like, is this really necessary? Do we need to
Yeah,
see? But as a standalone story and just how exciting it is as an action movie, it's it is a superior movie.
it is.
I
It
mean,
is a
it's
good, like, you don't even have to stick Star Wars on it and it would stand alone just fine.
yeah, it
You know,
just
you get
didn't.
enough of what is happening.
It's great that it's in that universe though.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. But if you were to just throw it down, you would understand that there is a bad force of people that are in charge of the galaxy right now. There is a small group of people who are taking extreme measures to attempt to squash this thing that is spread across the galaxy or the whatever, you know, depending on your setting. I feel like it gives you enough shit's happening, shit's been happening. These are these people trying to do something about it. And it leaves you wanting more. So if it weren't a Star Wars movie, you'd be like, all right, what's the next movie? Let's see the next one. Even though everybody fucking dies.
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it's good on its own and it gives enough information without needing more movies. I just want more movies. I like it.
I like the fact that this doesn't fall in the prequel trap either of stuff we didn't need.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know I just said a second ago that I was wondering, like, do we need this movie? But at the same time, as opposed to the prequel trilogy, which was stuff you could have read or stuff that was kind of known, things like that,
Mm.
this is just a one-off mention in A New Hope when they're just like, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Right.
And whether or not you think it was just sewing up a plot hole
Mm-hmm.
or the real star of the show here,
Yes.
if it was
She
just,
makes her appearance finally.
just whether it was just that or if it's actually like I don't know how to describe it. It's now threw me off my train of thought there. Uh, it's still fun to see the story because it's just a microcosm. It's literally taking place over a few days, and
Yeah.
it's explaining something that you didn't need explained, but at the same time,
Now that you have it, why would you not want
yeah,
it?
it's not filling gaps to cover your ass.
No.
That's what That's what I think
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I think I like it, and like I said, it's refreshing to see a story that doesn't need the Jedi's, doesn't need this the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've always said that Star Wars, whether it be games, books, whatever, that don't involve those things, that are just like Star Wars stories.
Yeah.
The actual military stuff. I love that. I can
Yeah.
enjoy it. Um, so yeah, I think that's where I've always stood on this movie, is kind of like that's kind of a breath of fresh air, but it's still in a universe that I love and I
Right.
nerd out over.
Right.
It's not a nerdy movie. It's set in a nerdy universe.
Yeah.
That's the
I mean,
best
it's
way I can
nerdy
describe it.
for a history person.
Yeah, yeah. I
But I
mean,
mean, even though I'm not I'm definitely not a historian because I can't remember dates and shit like that to save my life. But it is very interesting because it is there's enough to engage pretty much everyone. I don't
yeah,
know that it's necessarily a kids film, but
yeah. It's definitely. I think it's more adult, yeah, than all the others.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it in comparison to a movie like Solo, didn't hate Solo, could have done without Solo.
Still have to see that. That one, I think Austin is going to come back on the show for, but I have
When
to watch
after
that
you
one.
watch it,
Hmm.
time to watch it tonight.
Nope, I got to watch episode 2, Attack of the Clones, again to refresh my memory.
I liked Attack of the Clones.
It's behind the scenes spoilers there. I will be recording another one of these tomorrow.
Oh yeah, because that's the one tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I mean, you get it kind of in
I
order.
get some whiplash here
You
going
get
from
like a
this
gold
movie
bar.
to Attack of the
The
Clones.
best movie to. Okay.
Yeah. But
I'll be right back.
I can't talk. I can't pause this.
I mean, that's fine. You can keep talking though.
uh,
Talk about what you have to watch.
so yeah, while we're taking
Talk
a,
about the last time you watched Rogue One.
I could do that. So this will only make it on the YouTubes, but tomorrow I am actually recording with Garrett again on episode 2. So that's kind of fun and exciting. But this is our live behind the scenes, what goes on when we record. Um, but yeah, Rogue One. It's been it's been good. It's been good, guys. Y'all hang tight. Let's get Zelda cameo in here. Come here, darling. Say hi. Say hi to camera. Real star of the show here.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll have a skip ahead to whatever on the YouTube.
That's fine.
Skip ahead to 123:40.
Right?
There.
When Cat's back.
When Cat's back. So and we were so close too. Let's wrap it up.
My bad.
So this is the question I asked Austin. Where should this rank? Where does this rank in your movies? Now that we've talked about it and open and discussed it, where does it rank in your favorite Star Wars movies, and where do you think it should rank in mine?
I still think it's number one for me. When I think of a Star Wars movie, I can't think of one that I like better or that I can. Granted, I've rewatched all of them multiple times, constantly. But as far as movies go, that's one I don't get tired of rewatching. That's one I don't skip parts on to get to the parts that I want to see. So for me, definitely the top. For you, I don't know. I think three is fair. Two or three.
I think now that we've talked about it out in the open, and I'll have to see after I talk about Return of the Jedi. But right now, now that I'm older and I think, like I said, enjoying more adult things and stuff, some of the silliness that is in Return of the Jedi,
Hmm.
even though I love that movie and it's probably the most nostalgic of the movies to me,
Yeah,
I would be willing to say that Rogue One is probably my second favorite, just behind Empire as it stands right now.
sure.
But that could be argued as well. So we'll see when this is all said and done where Rogue
I'm
One winds
curious
up.
to see where it ends up for
But
you.
whenever I talk about this movie though, I say it's absolutely spectacular.
It is. I am sure that there are faults to it, but I feel like everything from cast to pacing to effects to just everything in general, like I think it hits all of the things that I need in a movie, especially about space and for Star Wars without having Jedi in it.
Also, one subtle thing that's in this movie, or what I should say, one subtle omission in this movie that I really enjoy for some reason is there is no opening crawl with the music.
Yeah.
It's the only movie, live action movie, well, even Clone Wars and stuff has the opening crawls.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's the only one that just starts with it just comes up and says Star Wars, Rogue One, Star
Yeah.
Wars story, and kind
Um
of just goes into it. And
I th-
something about that is so effective.
I agree. I feel like it doesn't buckle you in for the ride. You don't know quite where you're at.
Mhm.
I think the reason they did that is because it wasn't necessarily a Star Wars LLC or Disney that did it. I think it was an independent studio that picked it up and went, "This is the story we want to tell. Can we?"
I think they originally made a crawl for it and then
It's
decided not to
possible.
use it. I think it's out there actually that you can see it on the internet. I haven't tried, uh, but I think they made one and then decided not to. And I
Yeah,
think it's more effective that it doesn't have it.
I agree. It also doesn't start.
That's Zelda.
Is she licking her toes?
No, she's munching on something.
Oh, okay, okay. Like, what the fuck is that noise? Sounds like someone stirring mac and cheese. um,
Just being a dog.
I don't actually remember if it starts the same way that almost every Star Wars movie starts with the space travel to a planet.
It starts with an actual blue sky, doesn't it?
I think so. And then you've got the shuttles, the Imperial shuttles, going to the farm.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting too, because almost every Star Wars movie starts with, like you said, the crawl and a thing in space crossing your vision and going toward a destination.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting in that it does not follow all of the,
The rules.
yeah. And I think that's kind of refreshing too. I appreciate that there's always that I have a bad feeling about this.
Mm-hmm.
Punch it, the opening crawl, that opening
Yeah.
shuttle, whatever.
I think it being such a contained small story to be like only, over the course of 3 days or whatever,
Hmm.
um, and not being this part. I mean, it is part of the bigger war, but like it is. It's the small soldier story. It's the
Yeah,
person on the ground story, and not these big grand figures that will have their names in the history books.
yeah,
I think that makes it effective that it just has a Star Wars story
hmm,
opening, because all the ones with the crawl, like even the Clone Wars, they have the big war drums going in the background over the John Williams theme,
yeah,
and just the regular scroll and all the 9 main installments. All those movies are, like I said, they're the grand adventure.
yeah,
It's the big opening chapter. You're looking at this huge battle.
yeah.
You're not looking at what this one unit on the battlefield did as part of a greater,
Well,
war
that's
kind of thing.
neat too, being musically hello,
Mhm.
appreciating music or being musically inclined to. If you think about it, almost all of the Star Wars films, I'm pretty sure, have the Star Wars theme in them too. And Rogue One's Star Wars theme is similar. It has a lot of the same musical points, but it's not the same, and I don't think it's even in the same key, which is neat. It's interesting that it's like, yes, this is Star Wars. This is a different Star Wars than what you're used to, and I'd like to see more of that. Like you see it with the Mandalorian, there isn't a whole lot of um, the Skywalker story that happens, music and musically and stuff like that.
Mhm.
but it does have bits and pieces from other movies. Like at one point in the second season, there's I think it's March of the Resistance. It might be a Rebel Alliance one though. I can't remember specifically, but it's like a dubstep version of the Rebel song,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of does the same thing in Rogue One, where you've got pieces of Star Wars music. It's not the same thing though, and I don't know. I like that. I think that's neat that it's like, yes, this is a thing, but it's its own thing,
Yeah,
and it's obviously in that universe, but it's a it's its own thing. I like that. I think it's fun. I think it's neat,
it's a thing.
and it's not like attempting to be the Last Jedi, where it's like, oh yes, the Force is a religion. It's like, oh, yep, the Force is a thing.
Yeah.
If you believe in it, you believe in it. Hopefully it's with us right now. Hopefully it helps us. But like, it doesn't try to imply that the Force is anything in particular, because there aren't any people to be there to be like, this is what it is. This is how it's going to help us. This is how we're going to use it. It's just kind of like a may the Force be with you and also with you sort of a situation.
Yeah, and that's one thing that people have kind of knocked on with A New Hope or the original trilogy coming out is how have so many people stopped believing in the Force? When you have the guy talking to Vader, the general that's like, your silly old religion and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
Han Solo saying like, nothing beats a good blaster at your side, all that stuff, and old hokey religions, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do so many people get jaded with this? But you think it's 18 years after
Order
basically the end,
66.
yeah, after Order 66, and you now have a war-weary 2 decades of war going on that's cleaning up the Clone Wars and everything like that, the
Yeah.
rebellion rising, and it's probably a war-weary people that just don't have enough energy to believe anymore.
Yeah.
And then now that the Jedi are gone, why would they look to something that almost feels like can't be recovered?
Yeah. I mean, most people, I feel like in that time period, it shows you most people don't have the capacity to wield the Force
It's the common person
or
too.
the
Like,
knowledge.
what do the common people probably think? What have the Jedi did? What did they do for me?
Right. People with officers right now. To each their own, but like that's kind of how it is. What do I benefit from believing in this thing, or what do I benefit for supporting this thing?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the grind for them.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I think aspects of a religion or a belief system or magic or whatever, I think that's really neat, but I also enjoy when it's not like the center of the story. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If there are people that are like, well, yeah, it's probably a thing, but I can't do anything with it,
Yeah.
so
Or
why am I going to live by
don't have
it?
any guidance or direction if they
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
So like I said, the whole point of them thinking about making Jenna so force sensitive in this and then deciding to scrap that. Maybe she was force sensitive if her mother was a Jedi, but they just
Yeah,
never came out with all that stuff. And I think it's for the best because even if you gave her force sensitivity, then you give her, the whole domino thing is like, oh, this happened to her because of dumb luck.
yeah,
And it's not luck. It's,
yeah.
it's the force you don't know you're using kind of thing. But
Right.
I don't know. I like it for the better. I think that it is what it is.
I do too. I think that it fits well.
So anything else to say in conclusion? Wrap up?
In conclusion, watch
Well, watch it.
watch it.
Watch it. If you haven't, definitely watch it.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
if you have, come talk to us about it.
Tell them where to find us because I'm bad at it.
You can find us on Instagram at
Hello Tangent Pod.
and Twitter at
Hello Tangent.
and Facebook.
Hello Tangent.
Are we on Patreon still?
Hello Tangent.
Basically, you can find us anywhere, almost anywhere we do podcasts.
Yes, you can do Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, I think, and
But not
just Twitter.
SoundCloud.
No, not SoundCloud. I don't think. Or you can go to Simplecast, where our hosts actually put our podcast out, and you can see it directly from our page there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dual Omniblade or Dual Omniblades. And you can find Clark at
I'll do it like you.
Yeah.
At Rev Snakebite.
on.
That's my Instagram and Twitter.
Yep.
So actually, my Instagram is the Reverend Michael Snakebite. It's the full thing written out. I get a lot of comments on that. A lot of people are like, that name though, and I'm like, yeah,
You're like, yeah, I know.
it's a thing. And we're looking for a Q&A episode sometime soon. So we do need people writing questions. If you got questions, I've than wanting to do a whole episode where I just answer things that people have asked me or just how some of this podcast came together and different things that we joke about.
Oh man.
People want to know the inside
Furries.
jokes. Yeah, people want to know the inside
As
jokes.
they should. I mean, if we remember how the story happened,
Yeah,
I will happily tell you the inside jokes.
that's the trick.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for listening, and we look forward to doing this again very soon.
Yes.
Yes. Bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.